did you know that the Warlord Whispers brought Twilight's Hammer into Blackfathom Deeps recently and that it is still a really dangerous place? Or that Mulgore, despite the long peace and being a really peaceful zone, it is still in a pretty tough spot with a bunch of enemies? Or did you know that these Alliance guys are actually still present in Durotar? Well, Kalimdor was actually updated quite a bit back in Cataclysm. 13 years had passed since then and a lot of things changed. Most of you know all these changes that happened in BFA, but there are actually a ton of hints about how Kalimdor changed after that it was not shown in the game, so I really wanted to compile all the information that we currently have, from the various attacks on the Crossroads to the fact that Blizzard actually moved Kalimdor further east on the map in Dragonflight. We know the Wailing Caverns are still corrupted, have Azeroth in them. We know the Sword of Sageras is more relevant than ever, and we just learned that Kalimdor has a new name that the Titans have hidden. So let us get zone by zone and cover every bit of information on what Kalimdor looks like today with all the updated stuff. While Kalimdor has not been fully updated, the Magic Spoon, this video's sponsor, is the childlike cereal updated for the 21st century. For those of you that follow me on Instagram, you might know that I spend time working out, and I'm not too much into cereal, but I was literally blown away by this one, as it is a high-protein cereal that can perfectly fit your goals. There are 13 to 14 grams of protein, but only 140 calories per serving, 0 grams of sugar, and 4 to 5 net grams of carbs. Best of all, they don't taste like low-calorie cereal whatsoever. Their cereal bars also have 1 gram of sugar, 10 grams of protein, 4 net grams of carbs, and only 130 calories. So click the link below to get some Magic Spoon cereal. They just started shipping to Canada and the UK, and you can build your own variety box with my code DORON for $5 off. My favorite flavor is the frosted, but you can choose the cocoa, fruity, peanut butter, cookies and cream, as well as the honey nut, blueberry muffin, birthday cake, cinnamon roll, and a bunch of others. And you can also add cereal bars to your variety box as well. So make sure to click the link below, or just go to magicspoon.com/Doron or use code DORON and get $5 off your order today. As opposed to many other continents, Kalimdor has actually been updated. We've had the obvious Cataclysm that essentially reshaped the entire place, and we've also had a few other expansions that changed some of the features, although in a minor way. There was really never any shattering type change other than the one we've had, aside from the destruction of the Eldersil. However, as all of you know that you play the game, and you already probably know a lot of these changes, I want to cover the ones that were not really shown in the game and that happened in the books or were mentioned in quests or in these various conversations. There's actually a ton of information to unpack, as many things have been updated, but it is only a matter of time before this catches up in the game. However, before we get into the zone by zone updates, let's look at some of the more general ones. So this is something that might have flew past you, but if you compare the maps before the Dragonflight and after, Blizzard actually moved the entire continent of Kalimdor a bit more to the east. This might have been done in order to not have the Isles cluttered, but other than this, we have actually new information about a possible other side of Azeroth that is west of Kalimdor, a hidden place beyond the waves was mentioned in Old God books, and we also had a pirate that had apparently ventured it as well that is relevant in 10.0.7, so we might have something with that, and it could be a setup for a future storyline that could be happening quite soon. Other than this, we also learned in these books that we found in Deathwing's library that apparently the Old Gods had their own name for Kalimdor, the mega continent, not the current Kalimdor, but the Titans deleted this name from history and named the place Kalimdor, which means obviously Land of Eternal Starlight, so this new name might play a role in the near future as well. However, other than these all-encompassing structural changes, we actually have all sorts of bits and pieces just thrown all over the place across the various zones of Kalimdor. So to start from the top down on the map, we have Mount Hyjal. One of the most iconic zones of Warcraft in general, as this was the key point in Warcraft 3, but only an actual zone introduced in Cataclysm. Well, some things have changed. First, in BFA, there was a lot of Azeroth stuff happening here with the elementals and a lot of crazy stings, as well as battles, so that in itself would make some changes. Then, when the Horde destroyed Eldersil, Nordrassil became a temporary home for some Night Elves, as it was a place for refugees. Other than this, a lot of the elementals should have calmed down over the years, and we know that there have been some restoration efforts as well, so it is entirely possible that some of these scorched zones, just hellscapes that were in Cataclysm, are no longer there. For example, we know that the Circle of Cinders was actually restored, like this was officially confirmed. Right next down the line, we have Moonglade that we know was attacked by the Legion, but other than this, we really don't have all that much information. However, in regards to Darkshore, there actually is a ton of info. As we know, this place was a battlefield for years, and a fierce battlefield at that as well. The only thing that rivals this place is Tirisfal Glades, and both of these places have been equally scorched and destroyed. First, we have the burnt elder still in the background. That is a sad sight that is still present to this day. And we know that the Alliance managed to retake this place and to drive out the Horde that we actually witnessed ourselves. However, there is info after the Fourth War. The entire place is said to be quite terrible and war-torn. Little wildlife remains, birdsong is gone, and while some restoration efforts are happening, it is just a destroyed land. It was confirmed that the Grove of the Ancients and the Shattered Spirit Whale are active, but other than that, Darkshore is quite a miserable place up to this day. Right next down the line we have Felwood, which has been ravaged pretty much since Warcraft 3, and we don't really have all that much info about this. We know certain demon hunters have been on missions to hunt down demons, and since the Legion was defeated years ago, the presence of demons has drastically come down everywhere. However, we do have some information, and it's not really good news for the lovers of Felwood. Despite some parts being cleansed, we know that after the Fourth War, so after BFA, Satyrs, Infernals, Corrupted Ancients, and Corrupted Treants still roam this place. There is also a bunch of twisted, oozing, and just disgusting trees, and the corruption is still ever present. So while it may not be as bad as it currently is in the game, it's not really all that much better in the lore either. Ashenvale is a bit similar to this in terms of changes, however it is in a much better shape. We know for a fact that before BFA, Ashenvale was actually super peaceful, as the Sentinel said the place was just a super boring post to be. However, it ended up not being so boring when the Horde just moved their entire army through this place to burn down Teldrassil, which just brought on hellfire. However, at this point in time it isn't actually all that bad. It was confirmed that despite the war and the Alliance managing to retake a bunch of places, Ashenvale is still a lush wilderness and the Horde are still continuing on their lumber operations. However, some interesting things have been happening. For example, Zoragam Outpost was mainly abandoned, and the Alliance was super careful about this place because they knew it was the Horde's closest place to attack Azermist Isles, so they just planted a bunch of water charges around it, and the Horde did the same thing on their side. Now, we have the Blackfathom Deeps that actually had a lot of interesting things for some reason. The Twilight's Hammer heard Void Lord whispers and arrived here, and they mined for Azerite, which is the blood of the World Soul, which is relevant right now. The cultists were defeated, but the place is still super dangerous as the Naga are ever present. In close proximity, we have the Stone Talon Mountains. Not all that much happened in this place, but we know that the Charred Vale was a place for an Engineers Guild event, and after the war, the Sentinels managed to pretty much destroy every siege weapon that the Horde had brought to the mountains, but other than this, there really hasn't been all that much activity. Now, let's get to some of the most interesting bits of Kalimdor changes. We have the heart of all the Orc and the Troll players, and that is Durotar. So, in regards to Orgrimmar, there have been some structural changes. We know, for example, Sylvanas used those Orgrimmar tunnels that Garrosh used, but what they currently are used for, we don't really know. There have been some changes as we've gotten the trade outpost, so some buildings have been moved, and I'm guessing with a 5-year peace, there has been more prosperity and the city more than likely expanded to some extent. There have been some changes to the harbor, the Draktyr recently arrived, and I'm expecting this place to look much better than after Sylvanas had created that crazy war back in BFA. The only thing we need right now is just a complete actual visual revamp so that the main Horde capital is not stuck in 2010. We also have updates to the Echo Isles. We know a new dock was built that goes to Zuldazar, and a lot of the Horde's naval power was stationed here during the war, and I'm guessing it's still used as a significant base. We also have that Alliance expedition that many actually expected them to be completely gone, but they actually aren't. For example, the Alliance sent a rebuilding mission to Tiragard Keep in BFA in Durotar, and while that kind of failed, we know that these humans are still present after the war, and it is likely that the keep is being rebuilt, although it isn't too certain. We also have the Northwatch Hold, which is technically in the Barrens. That was destroyed back in the day by lava elementals, but it was rebuilt before BFA. Once again, the current state is uncertain, but with the peace, I'm guessing the Horde allowed the Alliance to rebuild their forces despite the strategic location. While we're talking about the Barrens, we actually have information about it. Quite a bit of information. During the Fourth War, a large Alliance army attempted to capture the Crossroads, which obviously failed. Then during Shadowlands, the Argent Crusade defended Crossroads from the Scourge and the Cult of the Damned. There have without a doubt been some changes to the place, but I'm guessing a lot of it has been restored over the years as they had passed, but we have 5 years time skip. Then we know that Baal Modan was used as a staging point by Alliance to attack Mulgore back in BFA, and the Horde launched an offensive on Baal Modan. The current state is uncertain. However, we do have some really interesting information in regards to everyone's favorite dungeon, the Wailing Caverns. So a lot of Azerite was found in this place, which launched a Horde and Alliance effort to attack it, and this Azeroth really impacted the animals that live there. We did learn though that after the Fourth War, as the dust had settled, the Nightmare corruption still haunts this place, and both factions abandoned their efforts to harvest resources here despite a lot of power, which means that the Wailing Caverns are a pretty dangerous place up to this day. Now, while we're talking about iconic horde zones, we of course have Mulgore. Well, other than the war that happened, the Tauren still actually face a lot of problems here even to this day, because Mulgore is quite a headache for the Horde. We know that the Venture Company are still a problem, the Gnolls are an ever-living pain in the neck, and most importantly, the Grim Totem tribe is still a pretty major enemy as they're attacking the actual water supply of Thunder Bluff. With the recent Grim Totem and the Primalist involvement in Dragonfight, I'm guessing we are going to learn more. In regards to Feralus, not all that much happened. We know that despite both the Alliance and the Horde footholds, it is still a pretty wild and dangerous place, and the Ogres and the Gnolls are a pretty big threat despite a lot of the missions. In a similar manner, Thousand Needles also have 1,000 problems. First, the Grim Totem are still a pretty big enemy, and the Horde are struggling to keep their footing in this area, and also the South Sea Pirates make this place even more dangerous. However, other than the Cataclysm, no crazy structural changes actually happened to Thousand Needles. In Dustfall Marsh, we don't really have a lot of updates, but the Alliance presence is still minimal to non-existent since the mana bombing of Terramore. We know during BFA there were some Alliance scouting missions in this place, but we definitely won't be getting rebuilt Terramore anytime soon, or at least there aren't any hints for it at the moment. However, with the Horde and the Alliance peace, the Alliance might be allowed to build Terramore back up at one point, as really back in the day it was the Alliance capital. Furthermore, we have Silithus. There aren't any big changes to it, but we know that the Sword of Sargeras is still there. Blizzard is constantly hitting at it being relevant. With all this crazy new old god Titan information, it is likely that Silithus might actually be the most relevant place, the most relevant zone throughout the entirety of Kalimdor, and it is possible that we could be returning to Silithus. Other than these zones, we know that for a while, the Quillborg had gone a bit crazy with the Cataclysm, but that has obviously calmed down quite a bit, and with how many of them we fought, I'm guessing they have also calmed down quite a bit and their numbers have been culled. In regards to the Centaur, that used to be a super major threat to Kalimdor, I'm guessing the exact same scenario happened as we had defeated them time and time again. Keep in mind, these Centaur guys used to be the biggest enemies of the Tauren and a huge menace across the entire continent, but at the moment they're nothing more than a bit of a nuisance as the two factions, but mainly the Horde, control Kalimdor. So overall, there have actually been quite a few updates to the entire continent. There has been a 5-year time skip since Shadowlands, and really it is only a matter of time before a lot of these changes are reflected in the game. While some zones look decent, it would be really cool if Blizzard actually visually revamped the entirety of Kalimdor. Thank you for watching. Check out the new zone eyebrows by clicking on the screen, and check out Doronsmovies Academy for videos on real world history. See you next time!